have to host Georgiana here. She was here 7 years ago as a visiting, yes, for a semester. So it's not the first time. Now she's back with this documentary, which is fantastic. I'm sure you'll all agree after seeing it. We had Emilia Sherkan last fall. That's an academic that I would say, well, I wish to be like Emilia Sherkan when I grow up. Georgiana is in the same category. So, without further ado, I'll give the floor to Georgiana to say a few words before starting the documentary.
All right, so, well, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for hosting me. It's really, really nice to be back after teaching here. Well, yes, 7 years ago. Feels like yesterday. So, I have done this work hoping that it will just be food for thought for all of us. Dealing with situations of academia, but I think with situations of the world we live in. I would not want to disclose very much right now. I would like to wish you to enjoy what's enjoyable and to feel what's to be felt and to think what's to be thought together. And I hope we'll have a conversation afterwards. Can you all hear me well without this?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's cool. So, thank you, and yeah, we can. Yeah, thank you. It's a global trend. It's not about Romania. It's not about Denmark. I picked cases that were in my way, so to speak. I took a travel through the locations I've been, and involved people from other places as well, other places in Europe, with the idea of reconstructing. Yeah, what are the systemic problems with which we confront ourselves every day? And what are those issues that are actually difficult to talk about, such as mental illness or mental health? How do we cope with anxiety and with just not having enough time or resources, money, to do what we need to do? And that's not turning better, it's turning worse. And I'll be old, but it's going to be worse for you guys, the young ones. It looks like it. So, well, I think all in all, what I wanted to do with this work was to set a role model for having courage to actually say and call it for what it is, dysfunctional. But also showing the vulnerability of, I try to show the precarity, the vulnerability, and the hypermobility that I am through. But I think that applies to all of us, regardless of whether we ever move anywhere else, because of how the world is right out there. Today, for example, I came here and flew from Rome. I'm hired in Barcelona. I've done this with the European Commission Fund given to Barcelona, worked with Timișoara, which is also a partner, and with Budapest, which is also a partner. But today I was in a forum with the United Nations and pretty much every government of Europe on the refugee situation and the movement of those who are even more vulnerable than what this documentary describes. And now I'm talking to you. So all of that is in one day of a person. So even if we don't go anywhere physically, we are in so many places at the same time. And that really needs fundamental questions on how are we to cope with all of that, which is what I've raised. So pussy, which in English is kind of an offensive word, purposefully used because of the gender aspect I wished to press, and with which we are confronted, I think, in daily practices in every industry, means actually in this region as well, I've heard, as well as in Hungary, which was one of my bases that was taken away by this authoritarian regime of Orban, means hello or goodbye in an affectionate way. So whatever the conversation is about, it will always be a hello in the affectionate way or a goodbye. And that's the beauty of this, I think, is that it's really not my decision but yours. And so I've done my job. Now you talk. Any questions about the production of the movie, the team? I'm representing everyone. I directed this work. I spoke about my story and that of others, but there is of course a team. There's always a team, and there's always a lot more than what I say. But also questions about the content, also reflections on how that speaks to your reality here in Romania. By the way, I'm Romanian born, so I'm so happy to be here with you to, reunite as colleagues, as friends, and who knows, family in the future. I mean, everything can happen with human interaction with some of you. So, what's your business? What are your questions, reflections? You go on.
Where are you from?
Sorry?
Where are you from in Romania?
I was born in Focșani, and my family moved to Italy when I was young. I grew up in Italy, and then I think I've been around the world without having a permanent basis for about 14 years, hence the idea of being stuck in movement, a world that does not permit this kind of settledness. But as I said, regardless of whether one physically moves, it is particular, I think it is specific to academia to end up in this kind of dynamic. It's not a personal type of decision, like many cases show. Yeah. So
Yeah, when did you knew that the documentary was done? Because we discussed about the other part, but now I'm very curious when you said, okay, now I have an idea of what I'm doing. Everyone said everything.
Yeah, well.
And also, just related to this, how long did you wanted the documentary to be at the beginning?
Yes.
You aimed for 2 hours, or you said, well, 40 minutes, and then you couldn't stop?
Thank you for those questions. Yes, those are very,
Sorry.
very difficult questions. Okay, so my feeling to the day, even now after about 10 screenings, I think this is the 9th, is that this is just the first draft. And it's, I think we have a similar feeling when we write papers. Like even when you submitted and published and went on with it, you're still like, I still needed to do so much more, I also had comments from participants that wanted more participation. Nobody wanted less participation, but those who wanted alterations, they wanted more of their story told. And I think their stories, everyone's story was a lot more complex and nuanced than I could hear, give a sense of. So if you ask me as a philosopher, that it never finished, it will never, this is just the beginning,
Okay.
But yes, I did have a sense as a director of when that was done, and I think it was a very fortunate case for how this happened. Actually, Florin here in the room, he was also in our very first rough cut screening. So this rough cut screening ended with a giant applause. And from the first draft, it made sense. There was a story, and it resonated with the people in the room. People felt touched. Some people started speaking about their own stories. Some person who didn't know anyone in the audience started saying about their own hardship. And so from that moment on, all we did was just finalizing that draft, but we had the first draft from the very first one. And that's not very common in filmmaking. I think it makes sense. I'm not saying it's the best product, and there is certainly a lot more to be done with more money, more funds, and more time, which were all limited in our case, of course, as most projects nowadays are. What was the second question?
If you aimed for 2 hours, or at the beginning you had a different time?
I had an idea of 1 hour, 1 hour and a half.
Okay.
And I know that because of the contract of our editor, it ended up being 1 hour 42. And that was the maximum I could stretch also on her inputs without renewing the full setup of the situation. So we were lucky for having had people who also volunteered, and that shouldn't be the case, I think. We should have more flexibility in how we use funds and how much funds we have, so that we can actually bring projects to their full potential. Yeah, the story functioned. It could be told with this amount of minutes, 142, from about 30 plus hours of filming, which is a lot of material. So this is the kind of film, and I think it's a good thing, really, where I had more testimonies that I could actually use. I have still standing interviews that I couldn't use because of the space-time, and I still have people calling me wanting their testimony being in. So my sense of that is that for all those reasons, this is the beginning. It can't be the end. It's a first draft for all those reasons. So we need more money, we need to go on, we need to return.
It's gonna be a Netflix series.
Yeah, I would watch that and cry.
A Netflix series, yeah.
That's what we watch.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I think what I managed to do was to reconstruct a little bit the full spectrum of the issue, but all issues are separate, right? The gender issue needs particular type of attention itself. Country-based knowledge, which also, I got myself into the situation where I was speaking on generalities, because at that point every country also had particular type of aspects that were more important than in other countries. For instance, in Romania, precarity is not as high, paradoxically, than it is in the global north, but the pay and working conditions are lower than it is in the global north. During precarity, right? But then also a lot of data is also missing on all those aspects. So comparatively speaking, it's also difficult to put together the full picture. But I think we all can recognize at this point. My impression is after 10 countries have shown it, that we recognize those as patterns that need addressing pretty much everywhere. Yeah. Any more questions from the young ones?
We're speechless. We are not.
Still processing.
You discourage us for pursuing a career.
Oh, all
Any
careers.
career.
Or just
Any career, because the problem is not only in academics. I think for the young people, it's everywhere. Especially for if we are to an entry level, we are discriminated even much more than it was back in the day, because everyone is asking for experience. But the problem in our type of faculty, we don't get enough experience. Not many of us get if we don't volunteer or being in an internship or being, I don't know, in a political party or something, talking about the political science here. We're not getting the experience they want from us. And the only thing I think I say is our vision is narrow. Many people from political science will only go, I don't know, to maybe be not working with NGOs probably, but with the government itself. It's a bit of a problem here, talking about narrowing the vision and not seeing the right, seeing the wide, I don't know how to say it. Seeing a wide vision about the political science. It's not about governing, it's about mainly about the people and how they function in society can be on the vision. Yeah, there are a lot of problems with us teenagers, to say.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. So yeah, I do think it's right to say that we have a narrow vision. I had a narrow vision of what I could do when I finished my studies, and even narrower when I finished my PhD, and at that point I was an academic. So widening that, it's surely important. I think what I've tried to widen in this work is the question on which virtues to bring in the room. And the one I tried to bring is courage, because forming young people doesn't mean only giving notions to get jobs, but also giving notions and to become good citizens, to become citizens who know their rights and who know how to get them who know how to challenge institutions in argument and in organized action when needed. So, yeah, thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I totally agree with the part being a good citizens, but I'll give the example of the child with the pink and the blue. We are from a young age educated not to have an opinion or a political statement in any school, because this is a big problem I have. I can't do politics in school. It's such a weird rule. I cannot express myself or any emotion or frustration I have with the system because it's political. Say. So that's a big problem here for the high schoolers or the kids from school from a young age. They cannot express themselves and they get in conflict with their teachers most of the time because there are many arguments in that area.
We get in trouble with our own colleagues, so yeah, I think it's systemic there. At least that's what came through in this work. And what's the point if we can't have a political opinion in a political science department? What are we trained to? Theory? Fine. But is that enough? Not from a feminist point of view, I think. Where thoughts aren't just to be thought, but also to found action, our own action, personal, collective, community. So may we get there to a place where we can feel safe with also our baggages, right? As well as our doubts, I think. Yes, there's a question there. Go on.
I just have to say, I need to go, but I'm so glad to.
I need to go too.
And then your Instagram or find things and read.
So yes, are you in the conference officially?
No.
Okay, then you know who in the room. Okay, so you may write them for the contacts. That's cool.
And we'll
And-
give you all the info.
And other people also asked for the links to be sent to directly to the mailing list of the conference as well. So yeah, thank you for your interest. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, we need to go too.
All right,
Yeah,
everyone,
so-
let's go grab drinks.